It's a very good day to be a Kansas City Chiefs fan. You are now AFC West champions for the 6th time in a row. We're going to get to that. We're going to go down what happened. How good is this team after destroying so utterly the Pittsburgh Steelers? How good did that feel, by the way? We're going to get into all of it with Matt Derrick, who's going to give us all the details. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Fresh from a prime rib dinner with Andy Reid, Matt Derrick is here, and he's ready to go. We have some meat and potatoes to go over, a lot of details, and a couple of concerns. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are having a pretty good night. Everybody's in a pretty good mood. So we're in the same building. We're all on Zooms, but everybody at Arrowhead's you've been having a lot of smiles and in a pretty good mood tonight.
I am glad to hear that. I'm in a pretty good mood too, except for my bit of concern about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know Andy gave an abbreviated update. Where do we stand with him right now? And folks, we're only about 45 minutes post-game.
Yeah, he's going to have a MRI done on Monday. NFL Network did report that X-rays done at Arrowhead tonight were negative. So that's a least good sign right now. We'll find out more tomorrow. Doesn't seem to be any real concern with the quad contusion that Tyrann Mathieu suffered. He had that, came out of the game for a couple of plays, went over to the trainers, went back in. Certainly him coming out of the game was a matter of the fact the game was over at that point. So no long-term concerns there, but things look a lot better for Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now, but we'll find out tomorrow after the MRI is done. Although knowing the Chiefs and Andy Reid, we might not find out till Tuesday or Wednesday.
It's kind of the way they end up doing things, isn't it?
It is, unfortunately.
That said, glad to hear about Tyrann. That collision looked to me like it might have been like a bruise, obviously a quad contusion. It looked really right near the joint, so I'm surprised they're listing it as a quad, but whatever. I was also concerned because Willie Gay had what looked like a hyperextension to me in the end zone there. Tried to get up with the help of his teammate and sat right back down. He didn't seem to come off the field there. A, that surprised me. And B, was there any mention of Willie post-game?
None whatsoever. The only injuries that Andy Reid said were of note and mentioned were just Clyde and Tyrann. The fact that it wasn't mentioned and he did stay on the field is certainly a good indication, but we'll see what happens.
And I think you have to look at this game and be very excited about the development of the Chiefs linebacking core, especially for the future, because I saw Willie Gay crashing down the line of scrimmage from the back side of the play multiple times, tackling the runner from behind. That's a very encouraging sign, especially as well as Nick Bolton has played, even though he didn't play in this game.
Yeah, the last two games, I think you've definitely seen it. Nick Bolton had one of his best games against the Chargers. Willie Gay has a great game again, this afternoon, tonight. That's absolutely. I think that the linebacker group with the Chiefs is absolutely in good stead. I was really surprised across the board with a lot of the young guys the Chiefs played tonight. Even at the end when the second string, even third string in a couple of cases were in there. I saw a lot of good effort. The Steelers scored their only touchdown late in the game, but I saw some good effort. DiCaprio Bootle, of all people, ends up leading the team with 8 tackles tonight. That was pretty impressive. That's just a practice squad elevation that comes up on a Saturday. I think that goes back once again to Chiefs identifying talent and being able to sometimes mine the free agency and rookie free agency for talent.
And I thought he played very well from what I saw, the little that he did play earlier in the game, but then he played late in the game. I was impressed with that. But the other thing that stood out to me is you look at all the guys that stood at, that came in that fourth quarter touchdown. They were going, what was it? It was zero coverage, wasn't it? The guy missed a tackle and they scored a touchdown. They were trying to keep it a zero game. So.
Yeah, Steve Spagnuolo was still being pretty aggressive with the backups in there late in the game. They're trying to keep him out of the end zone. It looked like a little bit of a busted coverage there, but the Chiefs wanted it. But then again, the fact that really the only substantial drive that you give up the entire game is against your second and third string. That's, I think, a pretty good indication about what this game was.
Yeah, and you play like you practice, and for them, this was practice in live reps, right? So be aggressive. That's what you're going to have to do down the stretch in the playoffs if you do get in that ball game. So I was glad to see that. I thought that Baker just got caught looking at the quarterback a little bit too much, to tell you the truth. So a learning experience for him. Certainly, a lot of guys had learning experiences because they were finally relied on. Really impressed with the level that everyone stepped up. We're going to get into the specifics and go over that coming up next.
If you have not checked out Built Bar yet, I do not know what you're waiting on. I keep saying this every single time, and I really do mean it. Built Bar is absolutely phenomenal. It is almost like a dessert. Not quite, but it is almost like a dessert. They just taste fantastic. This holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar. Built Bar, filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. Because it's the season of peace and love, don't bring your favorite Built Bar at family parties. People are so passionate about their favorite flavor, they'll fight you for it, and things could get out of hand. I know Ryan would be fighting for some of his with his kids. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. That is Built.com. Use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order at Built.com.
Well, clearly my camera has decided to have a problem, but
yeah.
Who stood out to you first, Chris?
Well, okay, so if you look at the offensive side of the ball, I think the guy that stood out the most is going to be Byron Pringle. Derek Gore played a fantastic game. I was really excited what I saw from him at different times, especially the 50-yard catch. It showed that Mahomes was able to improvise, even using a, fourth-string running back is what Derek Gore is at this point. So that was really exciting. And really just to see Byron Pringle step up the way he did. And I have to say, of all the things that excited me in this game, watching the offensive line give Patrick Mahomes 8 seconds to throw the ball on a touchdown pass, when you have TJ Watt on the other side and you have the number 2 sack defense in the NFL, is exciting. And that was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really remarkable. I mean, all night long, how much protection that offensive line was able to give Mahomes, and I think the other really big thing is just how comfortable Mahomes seemed in that pocket all night long. I mean, we've talked about it, as a recurring theme here, that there have been times where Mahomes really didn't necessarily look comfortable about where the escape lanes were with the offensive line, that he was still kind of learning everybody's tendencies, and maybe this is one of those games where Mahomes was. We've talked about it, him having this other gear that he goes into. Maybe he was in that tonight and his senses were dialed up to 11 and Spider-Man-like. But he was remarkably poised, I thought, in the pocket. He wasn't escaping the way that he usually does. I mean, he was really sticking in there. And I think that certainly some of that is absolutely gaining confidence with the line. But then again, that line played extremely well. And I asked Andy Reid about it. I mean, that touchdown throw to Byron Pringle was, to me, a classic example of a team touchdown because the offensive line protected forever. Mahomes didn't escape. He didn't panic. He just danced around in the pocket, and pretty much every receiver just continued to try and get open. And that's exactly what Byron Pringle did. He was just trying to break free, eventually found a window. Mahomes slid it through and get a touchdown. I mean, that to me was a team touchdown. And as Andy Reid told me after the game, that was to him like prime rib. So I think that says it all coming from the big ball coach.
I think coach is a little bit hungry. Clearly, they got a couple of nice plays from Blake Bell. They got a couple of nice plays from Noah Gray. Mike Burton got a big first down, almost took it in. Like a lot of contribution there. But I think clearly the biggest contributor to this, biggest riser was Byron Pringle, especially after he missed out on that first pass. Now, that was a heck of a play by Minka Fitzpatrick. But for Patrick to come right back to him, to continue working, to doing the little things, I thought that showed progression tonight for Byron Pringle in particular.
Yeah, it did. I mean, and that's something that, hey, that Pringle has had difficulties with sometimes, has been that he's had some negative plays. I didn't think that was that bad of a play. I thought you're right. I mean, I think Minka Fitzpatrick just made a really nice move. But, he's been in that spot where sometimes, he's been inconsistent. After that one play, you saw a lot of consistency from Byron Pringle. And that's the one thing that, he I think has struggled with at times and didn't really tonight. After that one play, I mean, he was spot on the rest of the way. And frankly, I mean, if you're really talking about it, I think we could really narrow it down to even just 2 guys on the offensive side that didn't have a very good night. And that was Josh Gordon and Chad Henne. Chad didn't have to do too much except hold on to the football. and had a little problem with that for a couple of snaps. But Josh Gordon is the one that I think this just has been perplexing and frustrating because, the Chiefs feel like this is a guy that could absolutely contribute and make some plays for them. But you saw tonight, he had 3 targets. And honestly, I thought all 3 were catchable balls. I mean, should have probably had at least 2 completions from that. One would have been a tough grab. But other guys were making plays, and he wasn't making those plays.
And one of them would have been a touchdown, and it would have been a good touchdown.
Yeah, it would have been a highlight reel touchdown, but
yep.
it was a catchable ball.
It is what it is. I think the guy who's gone under the radar to this point, at least from what I've seen post commentary and around the interwebs, I thought Mecole Hardman played a really nice game, not just on the touchdown acceleration. I thought he showed off his athleticism, not only the fact that it's still there, but that he can pull the trigger a little bit quicker is the way that it appeared to be. And I think we've seen a steady progression from him in the last few weeks. How do you feel about where he's at, Matt?
Yeah, I think the most important thing with Hardman is that you've seen him keep his head in there. I think it would be very easy for, what Mecole Hardman has seen probably over the last 6 weeks to get into his head a little bit. He's seen decreased playing time. And he was falling down the depth chart a little bit there. Now I think you're seeing him bounce back up a little bit. The Chiefs are using him in some different positions and ways and everything. And, in a week like this where, he had to do a lot of prep as, being ready to start and step into maybe some different roles this week, and didn't really know what his role was going to be on Sunday, and ends up having a solid effort. I think it speaks volumes, I think, about his attitude, that a lot of guys, they could see their playing time decrease and that could get into their heads and then affect their play on the field. I don't think we've seen that with Mecole. I mean, I think he's kept his confidence up. I think the Chiefs still have confidence in him that when his number's called, he can make plays. And then you saw it again against the Steelers.
I think the thing that stands out to me about this game is you go into this game without Travis Kelce. You go in, practicing this entire week without Tyreek Hill, thinking he may not play as well. He ends up playing, but he only has 2 catches for 19 yards and only got 2 targets. He really was not a big part of this game plan. Didn't really do a lot. Don't get me wrong. He is still a fantastic player. I'm not trying to take anything away from the guy. But to see them be able to move the ball up and down the field on the Steelers, regardless of having basically their 2 superstar pass catchers out there, I think that's a great sign for Kansas City moving forward. And then you start looking at how they were able to run the ball as well. I think that this is going to be a very fun team to cover in January.
Yeah, we'll see how the snap counts came out for Hill. I certainly, at least what I saw eyeball-wise, they were definitely lower than what they would normally have been. But I think you also saw once again, what the presence of Tyreek Hill on the field means. When he was out there, the Steelers were paying a ton of attention to him, which meant that there were other guys who weren't, and those guys were making plays. Darrell Williams really, ducked underneath some coverages on occasion and found some open places to make plays. I think you saw, Pringle and Hardman, they're in single coverage. That can only help them. They can make plays when Tyreek Hill is getting the attention. And the Chiefs offense, they won this game in a way that I did not think that they were going to. I actually thought the Chiefs might actually roll in this game, and pretty easily, because I thought Andy Reid just might empty out the playbook and get a little creative this week and let the guys just have some fun. And honestly, you know what? They almost won it with smash mouth Marty Ball type offense. There was nothing about this offense tonight that was, out there. Good grief, the guy's running fullback traps, there was nothing about this Chiefs offense tonight. I looked at it when thinking, okay, well, this is vintage Andy Reid. This was almost vintage Marty Schottenheimer. Not quite that conservative, but certainly not what we normally expect. And the Chiefs executed it perfectly.
And Ryan loved every second of it.
I call that the RFT playbook. That said, all the offensive side, it took, again, until the triple layer was in, to give up 10 points. This team is spiking on that side of it. I thought the front four was dominant. I think they have a couple of questions on the offensive side about where they're going to go. Is Mike Burton going to get my game ball tonight? You guys are going to have to listen to the third segment to find that out, but I wouldn't bet against it. But if I did, I'd go over to BetOnline and drop that prop right there because it's super easy. Nice, simple way to get to that site, make your bets, get your action in this season. You can head over there now and sign up. You get a 50% welcome bonus on top of your first deposit if you use our code Locked On. You can bet anything, all those other sports that are meaningless to the rest of us, but this one as well. It's the fastest, easiest way to get all your action in and on the line. So don't wait. Don't take advantage of it. Use the amazing new offer for the code Locked On. over there at BetOnline where the game starts. Game ball's coming up. We'll see if I'm going to be hectic there. But I want to stay with Burton's position because outside of the Clyde injury, I thought you got a nice performance out of both the backups. I know McKinnon's out there. He's got a return from IR, still a possibility. I don't know if that's even likely at this point. But, Matt, having the true what looks like a running back by committee at this point for this offense that has had to pull their deep threats down, is this the prime scenario for what you want out of the run game going into the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, assuming that Clyde's healthy and that's not going to be a long-term issue with him and the collarbone. Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are in a really good place. I mean, there's still the prospect that they could get Jerick McKinnon back. But even if that's not the case, I mean, Derek Gore is looking really comfortable in what he's doing out there. And the fact that he can make an adjustment like he did on that big pass play with Mahomes, where, Mahomes is comfortable enough to just give him direction to go. And he just takes off downfield and Mahomes can hit him. I mean, that's an advanced level play. I mean, that's something that a lot of rookies and younger players that don't get a lot of experience and time working with Mahomes don't have the connection to do that. So, I mean, I think that's a big boost. I think Darrell Williams, has shown that when healthy, I mean, there's just so many things that he can do. I mean, once again, you saw it against the Steelers. I thought he had a couple of really nice pass routes to get open. I mean, one, kind of just, throw a little bit of a fake block and then just floats out there and is wide open in the middle of the field. I mean, those are advanced kind of, veteran type plays. And even though Darrell's not flashy, he can give you exactly what he got tonight, which at 50 some odd yards, 30 some odd yards receiving. I mean, that's 80 yards is nothing to sneeze at, especially for a guy coming off the bench. And Clyde, I think, is just continuing to come into his own too. So yeah, I mean, we'll see where they are depth-wise and injury-wise, but I think they're right where they want to be.
I have to say this really quick because we haven't talked about it yet, and I just can't, and I understand why, but it's amazing to me. Clyde Edwards-Helaire his touchdown was amazing. His balance, his ability to take on the hits from two different players and still get in the end zone. He was stopped, 3 yards deep in the backfield and still spun out and got a touchdown, and he was so fired up. I hope they're able to get him back this year, but I do want to throw out there really quick. I was just looking. He did get placed on injury reserve earlier this season. So if he gets placed on it again, he can't come back. So just want to throw that out there as a note. I was really impressed with what I saw with Gore running the ball and catching the ball. Obviously, we kind of already talked about that. But when you start looking at the other guys that's, stepped up and at least did something, Demarcus Robinson had a couple of catches as well. I mean, he was enough to get the sticks moving, although, he did what he always does and, takes a couple steps back and gives up a first down, but it didn't seem to hurt the Chiefs any. And I will say this, Fry looked like he has a pretty good leg. So I was impressed by him as well. I didn't really care about the extra point miss or the field goal miss. Yeah, you'd like to hit him, but that win was crazy. And coming in here and not having experience with it, that's going to be a very tall ask.
Well, you saw it on both sides. I mean, Pittsburgh missed some kicks too. They had a holder punter that they signed yesterday.
Yep.
Was their situation. And Fry is kicking out of a hold of a guy that he'd never worked with until this week. And on top of that, you throw in some winds gusting to 32 miles per hour, swirling at Arrowhead, which most people will tell you the Arrowhead's one of the most difficult places to kick when the winds are blowing, and it was blowing again today. So I'm with you. I mean, I thought Elliott Fry hitting 3 or 4 field goals was big. I mean, the one miss doesn't, and the extra point miss shouldn't worry you or bother you at all. I mean, you're going to have Harrison Butker back here pretty soon, but Fry had for the conditions at Arrowhead, had a good night.
The special teams certainly did their part amidst all those changes. I still feel like with 4 TFLs, 3 PBUs, obviously the turnovers, the defense stepped up in a way that I thought was cognizant of having to play through what is now COVID, but could be injuries come the postseason or something like that. That made me feel like they were able to withstand the storm should they have a couple of injuries here, there, everywhere, in order to make it as far as they have in the past and have enough of the defense that maybe they can't keep opponents in the playoffs under 10 points. That would be pretty historical, but they can do enough to keep them in games. And I feel really good about where this defense is as a unit.
Yeah. And what an interception by Ward. Sorry. I just want to throw that out there. We didn't talk about that yet either.
Yeah, great play by Ward. I mean, you see, Chris Jones is continuing to get his hands on balls at the line of scrimmage. This defense is continuing to find ways to affect the quarterback other than just getting sacks. I mean, they're consistently getting pressure. And unlike earlier in the season when they were having to bring 5, 6, and 7 sometimes to get pressure, they're getting it now with 4. The secondary is playing really well against Ben Roethlisberger. That's what you need to do. I mean, he wants to get rid of the football quickly, and the defensive line did a pretty good job to make sure that he was never comfortable. I thought the cornerbacks, especially your starters in Snead and Ward, had very good nights. So, and with the defense, once again, this is not anything new. I mean, this is, at this point, if we're looking at the bulk of the season, the bulk of their work has been good. I mean, we're talking about 7 games where they weren't very good, and now we're talking about 8 games where they've been fantastic. So, I mean, now if you're looking at this defense and you're saying their body of work tells you who they are, this is really good defense. That's what their body of work is telling you.
Yeah, and I would think that you would also take out the game against the Chargers without Chris Jones, without Willie Gay, without L'Jarius Sneed. Going to be really hard to keep that type of team under, but we also ought to give a hat tip to the Chargers. Thank you for your loss today. Appreciate that, because Chiefs are AFC West champions. We already talked about that.
David Coley.
We'll talk about it more.
David Coley was a former Chiefs wide receivers coach and is doing nothing but helping the Chiefs, because outside of beating the Jacksonville Jaguars, he's only got 2 wins on the year. He beat Tennessee, and now he's beating the Chargers. So it's almost as though he's still a team
credit
employee.
to Chris Conley.
Chris Conley helped Conley too.
That said, Matt, let's start with you. Who gets your game ball for today?
Yeah, there probably are 23 guys that deserve the game ball. And maybe even some guys who are not on the field that deserve the game ball for just making sure this team was ready to go this week. Andy Reid, chief amongst them. I mean, what this team had to go through over the last, even 6 to 10 days. I mean, it's been pretty remarkable. But I'm not going to go outside the box. The guy who was almost perfect all night long and doesn't put up spectacular numbers for some strange reason, but does everything perfectly and flashy, is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he didn't make any mistakes. I mean, this was point guard Patrick Mahomes. He was just out there dishing the ball to wherever it needed to go, wasn't choosy, just took the open guy, didn't turn the football over, didn't really make any mistakes. I mean, it was boring, but Patrick Mahomes was brutally efficient, and
boring to win.
Not many other quarterbacks could hit the cards that he was dealt tonight and turn him into a straight. He did.
Yeah, boring can win, and I think that's what he proved tonight. I'm glad that you went with Mahomes, because that gives me an opportunity. Ryan, I'm going to jump ahead of you. I'm going to give mine to Byron Pringle. He had a fantastic game. His touchdown catch, his run on the second touchdown was even more impressive than him playing throughout the rest of the game. His duck under the defenders and able to get in the end zone. I think he showed that he has the ability to really help this offense at different times. 2 touchdowns, obviously a good night for him.
It's real simple for me. Nothing against anything that the offense was able to accomplish. My ball goes to L'Jarius Sneed, hands down, after coming back from a personal dilemma like that and putting up maybe his best contest of the season. He had one of those PBUs. He had one of those TFLs. 6 tackles on the night. Yes, he had a penalty. Couldn't care less. That's the ghost of Bashaud Breeland as far as I'm concerned. I love his game. I think he's still ascending at this point in his second season. I think he's going to give them better chances in the playoffs. And I, for one, am looking forward to it. So, folks, let us know who you think your MVP is for this game. Game ball. Go ahead, Chris.
I just want to say really quick, I thought Mike Hughes played pretty well as well on defense. He had what was it? I can't remember. Was it Johnson that skied over him for a ball? Perfect pass, from QB and perfect catch for the wide receiver. But I think Mike Hughes played a good game as well. And I just wanted to mention that really quick, because at times it's going to be important for Kansas City to be 4 or 5 deep at corner, especially going into the postseason. And I think that they are there right now. And that's exciting.
It is. Matt, any last thoughts?
I'll throw Travis Ward in there too, because I thought he played it very well. You're right, L'Jarius Sneed, especially his run defense is just so good. And he's such a good tackler. But if you're watching the video online, you can tell they're turning out the lights here at Arrowhead. The scoreboards are still playing the AFC West champion graphics on the screen. So we have like 0 stadium lights on, but we have both scoreboards, showing the graphics for the AFC West championship. So that tells you everybody's still celebrating over here.
Well, thank you for cluing us in, and we'll let you get out of here before there's no light left. Folks, leave us your thoughts, like, sub, hit the thing on YouTube, and we'll be back with you tomorrow. Matt will be back with us later in the week. Hope you all have a great one. Enjoy this win and this AFC West championship, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.